Hi Vijay sir. Hi Bharat.
Firstly, this is how little I know about Twitter Spaces. I went and fixed my hair and all. I thought it's a video thing. So thanks, guys. That went in vain. I spent nearly 12 minutes fixing my hair. So that's all right.
Was that what you were doing while we were sending you invites to speak, Bharat?
No, that is just me being extremely poor at technology. I heard Vijay sir talk about how he struggles. I'm a little younger than he is, but that does not mean I am any better than him when it comes to these things.
So Bharat, I think Bharat Ramraj is the only one that we'd like to have. So I've sent him another invite to speak. It comes on the bottom left corner, Bharat, and hopefully that you can just pick up that request and you can go from there. Right, so we've got Vijay sir and we've got Bharat. Now, Bharat, both of you have been on our podcast before, so welcome back to the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast, this time by way of a Twitter space. So very, very exciting. Plenty of people have now tuned in, which is excellent. We're getting some requests from listeners to speak as well. We will come to questions towards the end of the session. So we're looking for about an hour. We'll be talking WTC Final. We'll be talking about the ongoing test match at Bristol as well. Right. Let's start with Vijay sir firstly. Vijay sir, let's look back a little bit at this World Test Championship, right? It's been running for about 2 years. It's India and New Zealand have now reached the final to be played in 2 days' time, starting in Southampton in a couple of days. What for you is the abiding memory of this World Test Championship, this cycle of the World Test Championship? What's your favorite moment? So let's start with that.
Good evening, everyone. And Bharat, you can just take a picture of yours and put it on Twitter. Neatly done hair, we'll get to see it. No, I don't think anybody needs to see that on a lovely Wednesday evening, sir. No, I'm just definitely would love to see. I think there were many moments. I've said somewhere that would 36 all out qualify as a defining moment of the championship? Would you include that, Bharat, in your moment or one of the moments? I definitely, from an Indian perspective, that was without it, I don't think the India-Australia series would have been as epic as it turned out to be. I think that added a lot of drama. I mean, it allowed Ravi Shastri to say wear it as a badge of honor, and that I think really set off a chain of events which ended up with in India winning that series. So definitely, sir, it counts. But I'll come to my nomination or my pick for the moment once you're done describing this. Yeah. So no, what I meant was 36 all out and the criticism which followed with everybody going for the team, and obviously the humiliation must have hit the team hard. You were there. It was very tough on the boys. They said they didn't discuss, but I know they did discuss. You can't just can't forget that you were all out for 36, and of course it happens once in a while. 42 all out, 36 all out, 26 all out. So it was, I think, the turning point as far as Indian cricket is concerned. For a long time, you will remember how the team came back from that position of being all out for 36 and then losing the test match, and after that making a comeback without Virat Kohli as the captain. So that moment, I think it was what should I say, a platform for the team to come together. They realized they're going to have a new captain. The trusted Virat Kohli was not there even as a batsman, so Ravi Shastri had a very tough task at hand. But then they discovered new heroes, and it all happened because they realized that nothing can be worse than what had happened, 36 all out. So the way they came back, the way they won the next two test matches out of three. Of course, Brisbane was an epic victory, quite close to the two wins in 1971 when I was young, following cricket on radio or through newspapers. I mean, 71 there was no commentary from the West Indies, but England, yes. It was. I have some very very fond memories. For me, the turning point will always remain the 71 epic wins in the West Indies and England. But this 36 all out told the boys that you have to now come back and try and give your best, and which they did wonderfully well, and they discovered new heroes. I mean, Washington Sundar, Shardul Thakur, Hanuma Vihari, and then of course you had Rishabh Pant. He is probably the most exciting cricketer we have seen in the last decade. So to me, that's it, Bharat. I mean, I thought if I had to pick a moment, there'll be many winning moments, yes, but the 36 not out will remain etched forever. No, I mean, it's tough to disagree with you, sir. But I guess from a World Test Championship perspective, for me, the turning point really, or the moment that stood out was when New Zealand defeated India. Because honestly, before that, not too many people were talking about the World Test Championship itself outside of India, because India was winning a lot of matches. So everybody looked at the table and India was on some 385 points and everybody else was on 0 or 5 points. So I remember during the Ashes, of course, the Ashes is WrestleMania, right? Nobody else talks about anything else. So while they were talking about Ben Stokes and what was happening there, they were already looking forward to the Ashes, which is going to happen this year. So the World Test Championship was a footnote. And similarly, when Australia crushed Pakistan and New Zealand in Australia, it was again just a case of Smith and Warner coming back. And I think just globally, it was only in India where it was given some sort of a mention. And all the talk was about, okay, India is definitely going through. Who will be joining them? Will it be England? Will it be Australia? And it was all this big three talk. Then, out of nowhere, New Zealand pull off those two wins in Wellington and Christchurch, and I was fortunate enough to be there. And fortunate enough also to cover two test matches which finished within 3 days. And you will agree with me, Vijay sir, New Zealand is a country where you don't want to be covering 5-day tests. Like, it's such a beautiful country, you want some off days. And thankfully I did get them. So that is when I think the proverbial apple cart was upset by the Black Caps. And then it just threw everything off the way things were progressing at that point. Suddenly there was pressure on England and Australia, and towards the end, as we saw, even on India, because from nowhere, I mean, I saw the way New Zealand were smashed here in Australia. Nobody would have thought they would get anywhere close to that World Test Championship final. And within 12 months, they had become the first team to qualify for that final. Of course, the over rates in Sydney didn't help Australia, as we well know. So, yeah, there you go. So my pick would be New Zealand's win against India in New Zealand.
Those are both sort of left field picks to my mind, because we've spoken, Bharat, on our podcast previously over an hour and a half about India's Australian tour. I would have thought the Gabba test match would have probably made a mention somewhere there. And Vijay sir picked 36 for 9, which is probably the lowest point Indian cricket has been at for quite a while. So this is why we love having guests like you on the show. It's just fascinating to see the insight and the sort of different way you guys see cricket. It's just amazing for us and listeners. Wow. So we've talked a little bit about your favorite moment, or the defining moment, I'd say, of the World Test Championship and the road to the final. Vijay sir's picked 36 for 9. Bharat, you've picked New Zealand beating India in New Zealand as your defining moment. Now, let's talk a little bit about the World Test Championship final itself. Obviously, India made it in dramatic fashion, beating England 3-1 on some say doctored pitches in India. I say they were spinning pitches which England batsmen couldn't bat on. But what's the sense of having a test match 5 days played in England at the end of a 2-year cycle? Now, the point there is, it's looking like it's going to rain for the first few days of the World Test Championship final. So, Vijay sir, perhaps you could talk to us about your thoughts on the scheduling and location of this World Test Championship final.
I think it was driven by because Bharat also follows very closely. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was driven by this bio bubble pressure, quarantine, and the fact that New Zealand was scheduled to play Test series in England, so it suited them. Neutral venue. Where else would you have it? I mean, if you had it in New Zealand, and then there was so much of traveling involved. And if you are in England, like the New Zealand team was already there, India has gone there now, and they have gone through the quarantine compulsions, and the bio bubble is in place. So that could be one of the factors, and it hardly matters. If you ask me, would you have you wouldn't have had it in India with all the COVID issues we have had here, and or going to Australia where the travel restrictions, and here it's suited. And why not? I mean, if people are talking of conditions, they may favor New Zealand, but I completely disagree because we'll talk about it later. But I think this was one of the reasons they were driven by the bio bubble issues and, of course, travel restrictions. What do you say, Bharat? I guess, sir, you're right on a lot of fronts there. But the fact that the final was set to be in England was decided when they came up with the World Test Championship idea, 2 years ago. And the pure reason being a couple of things. The final was originally scheduled to be at Lord's, home of cricket, some call it. I don't like the dress code there, so it never felt like home for me. Not like I ever followed the dress code at Lord, but you would have been ashamed with what I wore to the Lord's or what I have generally worn to the Lord's press box, Vijay sir. So thankfully you've not had to endure that. But no, that's okay. You don't have to feel ashamed at all. I mean, it is they are needlessly, they're very snooty about whatever they do at the Lord. So please don't say that. No, I'm just kidding, sir. Yeah, I'm all against colonial hangover. Maybe that's what it is. But no, I think it was, of course, originally supposed to be at Lord's, any big World Cup final should be, I guess. And also the time of the year, right? Where else can you play cricket at this time, even without the COVID-19 virus? Because the schedule was the World Test Championship schedule was laid out 3 or 4 years ago. So you couldn't play it in India because of the monsoons. Of course, nowhere in the southern hemisphere because it's winter here, and nowhere else. So I think what has happened, though, it looks a little silly right now that the final is happening in Southampton. But again, their hands were tied. The decision was made to shift it from Lord's to Southampton 2 months ago, I think, when the UK was still... I'm sure people listening to us from England can correct me. Oh, you guys can correct me, DJ. In England, I think UK was in a state of lockdown when they took that call to shift it from from Lord's to Southampton.
Oh, yeah.
But
definitely.
Now... It was, right? Yes. So now it just looks a little odd that you have a neutral final, not at Lord's, but at Southampton. It's almost like playing, a Pakistan-New Zealand Test match for World Championship final in East London or maybe in Pune. It's akin to that. So, but again, I mean, it was shifted to Southampton because, they have a hotel. It's easier, like Vijay sir said, to create a biosecure bubble. But the final is always supposed to be in England, regardless of who made it. Because, come on, I guess they invented the sport, maybe? Maybe that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, the home of cricket, where the spiritual home of cricket may be in Mumbai or in Calcutta, I think they still use the tagline, the home of cricket. I was just going to say, actually, Nishad Vaidya, another guest of the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast, has just joined the show. We still, unfortunately, can't get Bharat Ramraj to join as speaker, which is a bit... I think we probably just run into tech issues. But Nishad is here, so it seems like a bit of an Edges and Sledges reunion almost, because Nishad was on the show a couple of weeks ago. So welcome, Nishad.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi everyone. I hope you're doing well. Vijay sir, Bharat, hope all well.
It's very, everyone is fine. I'm very happy to see Venkata also here. I admire Venkat's cricket work.
Yeah, hey Nishad, and I'm a big Venkat fan as well. I think he is he's one of the best cricket reporters going around right now, not only in India but in the world. Lots of love to you, Venkat.
Right, so I've just sent him a request to speak. Hopefully the tech works here, and let's see how it goes. Okay, fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the two teams now, because obviously both teams have now come out with their squads. Maybe Vijay sir, I'll start with you. Mayank Agarwal has been left out of India's squad. Now, what did you make of that selection, sir?
May I request you that I want to ask one question. We'll come back to, definitely we would love to talk about Mayank being left out. But I want to know what does Bharat feel, or what does Venkat feel about the lack of buzz as far as the Test Championship was concerned? I mean, all these couple of years where they really looking at these Test series as the journey to World Test Championship, and even now, I don't think there is much of the buzz is being created now by the ICC and the broadcasters. But is there a genuine a following? I mean, are they really interested in this match only because it is the World Test Championship final?
I can go first, sir. I think, see, if you look at it, to be very honest, did Test cricket really need a World Test Championship final? I don't know. I mean, did it really need a World Test Championship? In my book, Test cricket is still the best format to cover and to watch. That's my personal opinion. And I've never understood this whole thing about Test cricket losing its relevance. If anything, one-day cricket has been threatened, 50-over cricket, and most people agree with that. So it's been a little challenging to create that level of interest around it. And to sustain it for a 2-year period everywhere. And of course the pandemic didn't help. There were so many series that were cancelled. Australia, for example, have hardly played since I moved here. I don't know if there's a connection there, but they, except their 2 home series, the only tour that they made during this cycle is the Ashes, which was 2019, the start of the World Test Championship. So that hasn't helped. So it's been a big challenge, and I think it will remain a challenge going into the next cycle as well. And that's why I think there's a lot riding on this final. I saw other people on Twitter as well talk about it because if it is an exciting match, if it does go down to the wire or anything, I mean, even if it just produces good cricket, which it should with these playing 11s, it, I guess, will add that extra bit of relevance and interest to the Test Championship itself. Otherwise, it's been a hard sell, I'll be honest.
Venkat, can I just come in and welcome you to the Edges and Sledges Twitter space? Thank you for joining as a speaker. And can I just add to Vijay sir's question? How much has India being in this final actually contributed to the buzz, if any, around this World Test Championship final? Because we've seen where India plays a game of cricket like the T20 World Cup. T20 took off after that. So how important is India's participation in this World Test Championship final? Venkat, did you just want to comment on that?
Yeah, yes. Vijay sir and Bharat, thanks for the kind words as always. And thank you for having me part of the spaces as well. So with regards to how important to the World Test Championship that India is playing the final, I think it means a huge, make no mistake, this Indian team has supported Test cricket all along. I think even including Virat Kohli, the passion he shows for Test cricket has been really great. So in that sense, this Indian team, I feel, if at all they go on to win the title, it will be a big thing for them as well, because they have played Test matches against every team. Every opportunity they provide, they have played Test matches. You can't accuse them of not promoting enough Test matches, because in 2016 they played all the major teams at one go, and in 17, 18, it's been the case everywhere. So see, look, They have even gone on to play Test cricket in West Indies and even hosted Bangladesh as well. It's like not many teams do that. See, Australia haven't played Bangladesh for like decades now, and South Africa are touring West Indies for the first time in 10 years. So in that sense, I think India plays a very important role in keeping Test cricket healthy. And it's like if they can go and play each country, including Pakistan, I think that will create even more interest, I feel.
Very interesting. So, okay. I think the Pakistan series may be a little way off at the moment, but hopefully we will see cricketing ties resume bilaterally between those two cricketing nations in the near future. Right. So to the squad, back to the squad. Vijay sir, the question around Mayank. Were you fine with that omission? Have the team seen something in the nets that they've liked around Shubman Gill, or is it a case of giving the incumbent the spot?
I think I'm not surprised at all because not just the team management, even the selectors, if you see, they're convinced about Gill's potential. They expect Gill to be one of the big success on this England tour. People will always point out that he'll have to counter the moving ball, but there again, I think he's better off than Mayank in terms of technique because Mayank is a compulsive stroke player. So they probably needed a Gill who they feel handles the left armers better. So that's probably one of the reasons. And you couldn't have kept Rohit away. Mayank wouldn't have played in place of Rohit. So if Mayank had to play, he had to come in place of Gill. But I'll prefer Gill any day because he has a couple of things about him. One is his splendid footwork, the range of shots he has, and if he gets going, he has the capacity to score big. Of course, Mayank also has made some big scores, but the team management again is convinced that Gill has the technique to do well in England. So that probably was the driving force in picking him ahead of Mayank. Mayank will obviously have his opportunities if, God forbid, the opening pair doesn't click. But to me, I think for this World Chess Championship, Mayank and Rohit form a very deadly pair because if they get going, it will be like a Jugalbandi at the beginning of the test match, or maybe if India gets to bat on the second day, they will be. You can enjoy the stroke play also, and they will try to outdo each other because Rohit has this habit of creating a race between him and the partner. Not that he wants to make a point, but he loves to enjoy a partner who is also equally good at the other end. So New Zealand would be in for a tough time if both Gill and Rohit get going. But for Gill, I think the main reason is he can handle left armers better.
I think that's a fantastic point, and it takes us back to the treatment he gave Mitchell Starc at the Gabba. So this is just a fantastic insight into the thinking of the Indian management. Bharat, I'll come to you on the next one because I know he's a player that you followed closely during the Indian tour of Australia. Hanuma Vihari is in the squad of 15 now. Where does he fit into that 11, if at all? Is he challenging Gill for the opening spot, or is there a chance India might play the extra batsman, given that a draw earns you a share of the World Test Championship trophy?
Before I come to that, I'm so glad that a draw is being given some respect. Some people have complained that, how can a draw lead to the trophy being shared? And I love draws. And that's one of the charms of Test cricket. The draw is considered a fair result. So I'm really happy that the draw has been, given a little pat on the back. Coming to Hanuma Vihari, I think he's purely in there as a reserve batsman, guys. And one thing I learned from the team management during the Australia tour, even in the early half of that tour when he was playing before he got injured in Sydney, and he wasn't making a significant score, they
in their books, and just speaking to some of the players there, they thought he was looking the most uh, uh, most settled out there in these conditions. At Adelaide and in Melbourne, and I thought he batted really well on the warm up game. Spent a lot of time with Pujara. So, and I'm so glad that he's back in the Test squad. That Sydney Test match, I never tire talking about. Again, a great draw. Because he put his career on the line. There was a good chance that he gets injured, some other middle order batsman comes in, makes a lot of runs, and that could well have been it for Hanuma Vihari. It's happened so many times in Indian cricket. Look at Karun Nair. So I'm just happy that he's back in the mix, and he's been doing some incredible work in terms of the fight against COVID-19 as well on social media and everywhere else. So, but that aside, from a cricketing point of view, I think he's in there as a reserve batsman. Look, we're in the era of concussion substitutes, COVID substitutes. That's also another reason they have 2 wicket keepers in the 15 for one match. You can ask, right, why 2 wicket keepers? I think it comes down to that. As far as the 11 goes, I'm sure we'll talk about it. I don't see him fitting in right away, because when you have Jadeja, who in my book is right up there with Ben Stokes as the best all-rounder in world cricket, I don't think you need a reserve batsman. And Rishabh Pant, the way he's been batting, he slots in at number 6. So, and just on Mayank, he was all out of sorts in Australia. I remember seeing him in the nets. He would have 5 or 6 nets. He was just all over the place. And I think it's good that he's got some time away. He's come back. He'll, of course, at some point, I see him featuring against England in the 5-match series. There's no way they were going to separate Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill. So no surprises with that either.
Fantastic. Nishad, let me come to you on our middle order. We often tend to gloss over number 3, 4 and 5 in the Indian Test middle order. And it's almost like when you're watching Rafa Nadal play tennis and he hits a screaming passing shot down the line on the run, you just sort of say, oh, okay, and you move on. But it's just the level of expectation that we have from these players. Are you worried at all about the form of the middle order, namely Pujara, Kohli and Rahane? Rahane hasn't been in the runs lately. Kohli's been stuck on 70 or 7100s for a while. And Pujara hasn't scored those many runs in England previously. So any worries around that middle order at all?
It's a little bit tricky, isn't it, that they haven't been, so to say, at their best in the very recent time. Rahane has not gotten the runs after Melbourne, and Pujara in the England series also didn't get anything apart from the first game in Chennai. But I must say that Virat Kohli did look good, and he just got out against the run of play. So I do feel that backing this middle order, of course, India have got no other option. But I expect Pujara to come good. Remember the last time India were in Southampton, he got a Test 100 there. And it wasn't like he wasn't amongst the runs in England the last time. He did get the runs when it mattered in Nottingham and also later in Southampton. So I'll back him. But I would be a little concerned about Rahane, because, what's happening to him in Test cricket is what fans really talk a lot about Sanju Samson in the IPL, where he gets 100 and then he has a lean run, then gets another. And unfortunately, I think that's what's happened to Rahane for some time. But I would be a little bit concerned about Rahane, but still back him to be in the side and hope he comes good.
Absolutely. And being the vice captain, I think it'd be hard to leave him out for the World Test Championship final, particularly since he is the top scorer for India in the cycle that's led up to this World Test Championship final with over 1,000 runs. I'm really pleased to have Anindya Dutta as well, who's been on the Edges Sledges cricket podcast previously, join us. Anindya, how are you doing? Welcome to the Twitter space.
Thank you. All well. I'm just here to listen to you guys.
No, we're coming to actually your speciality. We've just run through the batting. Now the next question is actually around spin, and you've written that fantastic book around spin wizards. So what are your thoughts around the spinners? Are we going to play two spinners in this World Test Championship final. Obviously, there's a bit of rain around at the moment. So, firstly, are we going to play two spinners in this game?
I don't know if we're going to play two spinners, but I would play two spinners.
That's a very, very diplomatic answer. And say you didn't play two spinners, and India didn't play two spinners, and they chose between Ashwin and Jadeja. Say you were in that spot of having to choose between those two spinners to fit in or force fit another seamer, given the conditions are likely to be cloudy and wet. Which of the two would you choose, Anindo, between Ashwin and Jadeja if you were forced to
I
make
would
that
always
choice?
go with Ashwin. I would always go with Ashwin. I just think Ashwin is in the form of his life. He's at the top of his game as a spinner, and Bharat saw him very closely. So he'd in Australia and he would vouch for that, as would all of us who follow the game. I think that he's probably never bowled better in his life than he is now. So why would you not pick the best spinner in the world at the moment? And he can bat as he has shown in Australia, that he's getting his batting form back, and we can't possibly forget the grit that he showed when needed. So that cannot be an excuse for not picking Ashwin. That's my view.
Vijay sir, maybe I can come to you on this one. Do you agree with that choice of Ashwin over Jadeja if forced to make that choice?
I think I expect both of them to play because, if you ask me, my squad would be 6. Everybody knows the top 6. You add Jadeja and Ashwin, and then pick three fast bowlers. Whether you want to play Ashwin or you want to play Siraj, and then Bumrah and Shami. So I'll play both Ashwin and Jadeja for the simple reason that they bring variety and they can strengthen the batting. You never know. There could be a top order collapse if the ball is moving a lot. They can later come and steady the innings. So Ashwin again is a fighter. I mean, he is. I don't know if he is the best spinner in the world, but he is definitely a match winner. He can swing the game on his own. So I'll prefer both Jadeja and Ashwin, and of course top 6 like Bharat was saying, with Rishabh Pant at 6. We know who the 5 will be, and it's just choices. Which 3 seamers are you going to play? I mean, that is if I am the captain. I would play these 2, but I don't know what Ravi Shastri and Kohli are thinking and what they're going to do on the 18th.
Okay, Bharat, you're the captain of the Indian cricket team. Who are you picking as your bowling attack? Go for it.
Yeah, of course I'm the captain of the Indian cricket team, man. I stuck my neck out very prematurely, like I always do. And I said no, because I don't think you look at Jadeja just as a pure spinner anymore. Like again, to reiterate what I said, he's right up there. He's a number 1 all-rounder in Test cricket in my book, alongside Ben Stokes. So he just plays regardless, and so will Ashwin. Like, you need to go in with your best bowling attack. I was reading my ex-colleague and good friend Karthik Krishnaswamy's piece in the rival website Cricinfo, Boo, and he wrote a beautiful piece about bowling and what the Southampton pitch has been doing, and there's been a lot of talk about the pitch being dry. But regardless, whatever happens, India will go in with Jadeja and Ashwin. It's just a question of which 3 seamers. Again, considering now you named me the captain of the Indian team, for starters, they'll have much better music taste in the dressing room. I can vouch for that.
What are you playing, Bharat? What are you playing in the Indian dressing room?
I think you can never go wrong with heavy metal. Thrash metal. Like, that just gets you going. Trust me.
Wrestling music?
You're going to...
No wrestling music?
What's that?
Wrestling music?
Wrestling music only when they walk out to bat. Okay. Yeah, right? And to use the wrestling analogy as well, I mean, on Nishad spoke about the middle order, Pujara, Rahane and Kohli. I almost said Tendulkar. But yeah, I mean, what do they say about John Cena? He's a big match player, and like I said, this is like WrestleMania. This is the big match, so you need to back those three. I think if India have to win, I know there are a lot of exciting talents on either side of them, but those three or one of the three has to come good, and I think one of them will. But yeah, about the spinners, both of them play. It's just a question of some people have wondered whether Siraj gets a game based on the 15-second clips we've seen of that warm-up game in Southampton, and reports that he's been bowling really well. But I would always pick Shami because he's the enforcer of this Indian attack. And even though he hasn't played since that Adelaide Test, unfortunately, in my book, he plays alongside Bumrah and Ishant Sharma. And yeah, there's no doubt about Jadeja and Ashwin playing.
Yeah, it's all been rather cryptic actually with the seamers. Now, if Jadeja and Ashwin both play, that leaves 3 spots for the seamers. Now, Ishant, being the leader of the attack, played 100 Test matches. You'd expect him to play. He's obviously been economical, lots of control on his line and length in the recent past. Bumrah, being the X factor that he is, I think walks into that team as well. But they've also talked, and there was that clip where there was a press conference with Ravi Shastri and Virat Kohli, and there was a leaked audio where they were talking about Lala and Siraj bowling around the wicket to the left-handers in the lineup. So it sounded like they both might play. But Vijay sir, let me ask you the question that's on everyone's mind. Do you go with the tried and tested trio of Shami, Ishant, and Bumrah, or do you introduce Siraj there based on Shami not having played a Test match since December, and perhaps not having that great a Test average in England, although a lot of chances have been dropped off him? He averages 47 in 8 Test matches.
I agree with Bharat that Shami is a hard trier. He can bowl long spell. He's a strong man, even though he has been troubled with injuries. But Ishant, there is a long series ahead, 5 matches. Of course, this is important. You would want Ishant. He is the spearhead, 100 Test matches. You want Ishant to play, but I think I would take a different view. Maybe why can't we play Shami, Bumrah and Siraj and keep Ishant for the series? It could be a very different thought than all of us here, but I don't mind playing Siraj ahead of Ishant, and because he's doing very well, he's very motivated, and again he has an amazing heart, because normally people say spinners have big heart, but that is what Siraj is. He's learning very quickly, and the best thing is about that he is the only bowler who bowls to his field. If you will see, it's a very, very important thing that the captain wants the bowler bowling to the field he wants, but it's the field which has been set. So Siraj is an outstanding bowler, and given an opportunity, he will do well. There is no doubt about it, and you can keep Ishant for the long series ahead. Of course, the series is also important. You can't say that you will win the World WTC Final and go and lose the series. That will not happen. But yes, if you ask me, 2 spinners, Siraj, Shami and Bumrah. This will be my pace attack.
Super. Nishad, I'm going to ask you the question that's come out of Vijay sir's comment. Is the World Test Championship final more prestigious than the England series? Now, I think this is Ishant's 4th tour of England. So would it be okay for him to sit out the pinnacle of Test cricket, so to speak, and play and reserve him for the 5 Test matches to follow? Would that be a little bit harsh on the man with 100 Test matches but no ICC trophies? Actually, he has the ICC Champions Trophy 2013, doesn't he? Nishad? I think you're still on mute.
Hi, sorry. No, I just lost the connection for a bit. Can you repeat? You were asking me about Ishant possibly sitting out in case? That's what you were asking?
Yes.
I lost the connection.
Yeah, so Ishant possibly sitting out and saving him, so to speak, for the Test series. Now he has won a ICC trophy in 2013, Champions Trophy with Dhoni. But would it be a little bit harsh on leaving him out of the Championship final?
Sorry, let me just button. I'm saying that was my choice of seamer. Doesn't mean that the team management will go by what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely, sir.
I'm keeping Ishant out of the Test Championship final.
We're all captains of the Indian cricket team for this purpose.
Well, I would actually go for Ishant, Shami and Bumrah. Agree with Bharat when he also says that Shami is the enforcer. You need Shami there because he can also do stuff with the old ball if required. And Ishant, mind you, also got a 5-wicket haul the last time in Birmingham. Of course, we remember the 7 wickets at Lords. So, there are those spells, he can get you those impact spells in England. So, definitely I would pick Ishant. I would think so. So, yes, a shot for him to add to that ICC trophy, in his cabinet, one more. And also a shot for Cheteshwar Pujara. I know a lot of people forget that the last time Pujara played an ICC knockout game was the Under-19 World Cup final of 2006, which India lost. So, a great opportunity for him to add an ICC trophy to his cabinet.
Fantastic. Okay, Bharat, we are the Rishabh Pant show, so we need to talk about Rishabh Pant. We've just assumed that he's going to be walking at number 6, although Saha is in the squad of 15. What is Rishabh Pant thinking in this one-off test match? I mean, he's made his debut here in the last series that India was here in 2018. He's had his ups and downs since then. He's had a fantastic kind of back end of the World Test Championship. Going into this final and the England series potentially, how high is Rishabh Pant's stock at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, we are in the era of Pant, aren't we? We've spoken. I think that's a name I've taken more than any other name. Maybe my wife comes close second in the last 6 months. Yeah, everything's been about Rishabh Pant on and off the field. So, and looks like he's already made 100 in the intra-squad match over in Southampton. So he seems to have started off pretty well. And yeah, I mean, look, there's no looking back. He's just going back to being a big match player. He's one of them right now. You have to count him right up there. What I'm really looking forward to seeing, though, is Rishabh Pant behind the stumps, because he did have a lot of issues when he kept there. Of course, that was his first ever test series. And even though he made 100, there were a lot of question marks asked about his keeping. I remember Kiran More had to, who called him over to the NCA and worked a lot with him after that series in 2018. So as much as it's about the Rishabh Pant show every time he walks out to bat, look, the way the New Zealand bowling attack is, you need someone like Rishabh Pant, a game breaker, someone who can counter-attack, someone who can put them off their plans. Because New Zealand, as you know, at the risk of sounding very cliche, they thrive so much on discipline and sticking to their strategies and their plans. So to off-put that, Rishabh Pant is the perfect guy. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Rishabh Pant, the wicketkeeper, even more, because what we saw in Australia was, and in India as well, he's really improved with his wicket-keeping. He's worked terribly hard at it. He's worked extremely hard at his fitness. I remember Mel Farrell and I used to see him running laps even when he wasn't playing the warm-up game at Drummoyne Oval in Sydney. So all that put together, the entire Rishabh Pant package is what I'm looking forward to seeing. So everyone else. And one thing we've learned about him is he's just got such great clarity for someone so young. And I've told you guys this before as well. I remember interviewing him just when he was picked for the first or his first ever IPL during the Under-19 World Cup. And I asked him what he's going to do with the money, and he said he wanted to buy a fancy house and a fancy car. I said, brilliant. I'm sure this guy's going to go a long way. There was no diplomacy in that answer, and there's no diplomacy in the way he plays his cricket either.
Brilliant. So I think we've now covered the Indian team fairly well. I don't think Riddhiman Saha gets a look in other than for a concussion substitute. So times have really changed since the idea was that Saha would be the number one keeper, with Rishabh Pant being his understudy almost in some ways. Let's talk a little bit, before we go to questions from the listeners, let's talk a little bit about the New Zealand side. So maybe I'll come to Vijay sir again on this one. Vijay sir, what are the strengths and weaknesses of this side? They look fairly settled with Devon Conway coming in. Their bowling attack is pretty strong. But are there any questions around this New Zealand side?
Not really. If you ask me, they are a perfect test team because they don't have a star in the side. Conway, yes, the latest to join the players who we can look forward to in the times to come. He is an absolutely brilliant batsman to watch, a typical Test cricketer. But what I like about this New Zealand team is it's a collective force. I mean, when you talk of India, I mean, you begin to pick individuals, right? You want Rishabh Pant to do something, and then you have Pujara to do something, or somebody. I mean, there's Gill emerging as a possible star for the future. Then there is Virat Kohli. But if you look at New Zealand, they are a very well balanced team. They know their limitations, and they've learned to play within that because they do not they don't leave the job for somebody else to finish, which is the best thing about this New Zealand squad. And if you look at the batting lineup, Conway, Latham, Williamson, Taylor, Nichols, if he's there, Watling, and then of course their bowling. I mean, Wagner, Southey, and Bolt are as good as any other attack. And like Bharat saw them in New Zealand, they have always been almost unbeatable in New Zealand. So I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised when India went and lost both the test matches. It's happened in the past also. Before the 2003 World Cup, they were just swept off their feet. And New Zealand they might feel at home if the conditions at Southampton look pretty much like, say, Wellington or Christchurch. But I have a feeling that New Zealand they don't come under any pressure because that's how they are. I mean, they have all these years. I'm not saying that they have underperformed, but they have come to accept the fact that okay, I mean, they may have lost the 2 World Cup finals, fair enough, but they have emerged a very good test team, which does not, like I'm saying, insisting, it doesn't depend on one team. I mean, it's not that Wilson will come and bolster the batting if wickets are falling around him. They will always have partnerships. They will have partnerships. They have one batsman for every occasion. So that is what the best thing about New Zealand is. It's a collective force.
Fantastic. Anindo, I'm going to come to you on this because you are a resident spin expert. They've dropped Mitchell Santner from that 15. What do you make of that? And is Edges Patel a decent spinner? Is he going to get a look in, or is it going to be all pace from New Zealand?
That's a difficult one. I'm not sure if Edges Patel is going to play, but if they've taken Edges Patel and dropped Mitchell Santner, it probably means that he has a very good chance to play. Maybe they took him just because he's the only Mumbaiker playing on either side, right? I mean, born in Mumbai.
So Rohit might be a bit upset by that, but okay.
Yeah. But I honestly don't know what to think about that. That whether they're even going to play him. But if they do play him, maybe they feel that the Indians play Mitchell Santner quite well, whereas they've played Ajaz less, if at all. So I think that just might be the reason. And I quite liked what I saw when he played against England. So he might be a good person in that mix, but I just get this feeling that he may not actually play.
Sorry, Bharat, can you just do a quick check if Santner is injured? I don't think left out. If you can just check, I think he's injured. That's why this Patel has been picked.
Yeah. I don't think whether he's recovered from that finger injury. And anyway, I think Mitchell Santner has played a role for the Black Caps in their rise, sort of, in the last 14 months or so, and even previously. But I don't think he has the best red ball record, nor does he fit in. I think he's played mainly to enable them to have that balance in the side.
And yeah, I mean, about New Zealand, like Vijay sir said, they've gone from being the dark horses to the stallions. And I'm talking purely about Colin de Grandhomme and his hairstyle. Have you ever seen a stallion play cricket? Just look at Colin de Grandhomme right now. And he brings so much to that side which doesn't get mentioned. Whether it's the economy provides. Look, I remember when they were in Australia and they struggled on these pitches, losing Lockie Ferguson early to injury. He just has the ability to keep one end completely tight, and he has a happy knack of taking wickets. He got Virat Kohli out with the ball that came in one of the test matches in New Zealand, and he makes up literally for them not having a spinner in many ways. So I don't know how Ajaz Patel comes in. If left to me, when you have Wagner, Jamieson, Saudi and Bolt, and this is the World Test Championship Final, you better make sure all four of them play. As much as I love Ajaz Patel's arm ball, I think that's such a. I'm sure Anindo loves the arm ball. He bowls such a classical arm ball. Very few left-arm spinners do that these days.
He does, Bharat, but I completely agree with you. There is, with four bowlers like that, there is no place for Ajaz Patel in that team.
Hopefully they don't go for some horses for courses. Even if the pitch is dry, you still pick your four best fast bowlers and Colin de Grandhomme, who plays such a pivotal role in that middle order with the bat, but also with the ball. And please, if Colin de Grandhomme and his hair don't make it to the World Championship Final, there's no point. What's the point? Why are we even doing this?
Fantastic. So it's all about the hair. It's all about the mane. Okay, so we've got about 10 or 15 minutes left in the spaces. So I'm going to invite some listener questions. I'm not sure we're going to manage to get to the women's test match today. Although India have just picked up a wicket, which is great. One of the openers is out to Vastrakar. And England are continuing on their merry way.
And that was a lovely catch by Tanya Bhatia, by the way.
Yeah, excellent.
She was in front of her slip.
Yeah, really good. And the weather there is nice as well. So hopefully that stays good and we get a full test match. I'm going to now invite some questions. I'm going to go one by one. So once I've accepted your speaker request, would you mind directing your question to the person you want it answered by? Just say your name, say who the question is to, and keep it short so we can fit more questions in, please. Yeah, I'm going to start with Gautam then. Gautam, do you want to ask your question?
So, great job with the discussion. Nice and sharp. My name is Gautam. My question is for the entire panel. India typically are very poor starters on an overseas test tour, and they play like champions towards the end, as best seen by the last tour to Australia. So my question is, do you think the performance of the team would have been different had this been played at the end of the 5 test series, by which they would have acclimatized to the conditions, or given the greatness of the occasion, they'll just be able to step up to the game and pull off a miracle? Thanks again.
I think Vijay sir, having watched the most cricket, probably won for you. And we can then probably move on to the next question after that.
Sorry, I mean, he absolutely brilliant point that, we start a tour on a different note, but on a losing note, I'm so sorry. But here, we may part of, that is a series and a tour. So I don't expect the team to fumble here. They know this is a knockout situation and they are prepared, they've been waiting. So I'm not really worried that it's going to be their first game.
So I think from Vijay sir, that's we don't need to be worried. They are prepared. Sorry, there's a little bit of background noise. I think the connection's dropping a bit. So anyone who isn't speaking, if you could just stay on mute, that would be great. So, Sudeep, maybe you can come in next and ask your question, and then Nakul, and then Peter, and we can then take the rest of the questions. So Sudeep, Nakul, and then Peter, please.
Hello everyone, I am Sudeep Dwivedi and my question is to Vijay Lokapally sir. Sir, as we all know, there is a forecast for rain in the World Test Championship Final. So what would be the captain's mindset regarding this? Would Kohli and Williamson look to bat first, or will they look to bowl first on a damp pitch if it rains on the first day itself? Because as you all know, on a fourth, fifth day in a test match, chasing sometimes get tricky. And on top of that, if there's rain happening, so it becomes all more difficult. So how would the team management cope regarding this? I want to know this.
I'll answer briefly because I think you don't pick a team looking at the weather. You will pick your best 11, and then in the morning of the match, you would get to know some indication of how the weather is going to be, or even though they're pretty accurate in England, but you're not always driven by the weather when you pick the 11, because you may pick an 11 thinking it might rain, and then what if it doesn't rain? It boomerangs. So, Bharat, would you like to add to it? I may be wrong.
No, sir. You're absolutely right. I don't think you can pick a team for the weather. Anyway, we have a reserve day, so it could well be a 6-day test match. And who knows with the English weather, right? The forecast already seems to be improving according to some. Yeah, I guess it really depends on which website you're checking the weather on from the looks of it. But yeah, the best thing about this final is, for a change, both teams have they can pick from their best 11s, or best 15s or whatever it is. So in a way, I think that kind of makes up for whatever the weather is going to be like. In terms of the toss, I would expect whichever team wins to bat first. New Zealand like batting first, regardless of what the pitch is like or what the conditions are. That's why they have green pitches for their home test matches, so that they back their bowling to defend any kind of total or make a game of it, regardless of how much runs they put on the board.
Great. Nakul, do you want to go next, please, with your question, and just let the panel know who you're directing it to, please?
Yeah, thanks very much. Hi, I'm Nakul Pandey. I think, Bharat, you're probably best placed to answer this. India, for a superpower, are not the best in the slip cordon of the seamers. Who is your slip cordon for this test match?
Yeah, that is true. They're not the best, right? Yeah, but I think it has definitely improved since Rohit Sharma became a more regular member of this Test 11. For the longest time, they were struggling. I mean, you'll find... wait, let me get my slip cordon glasses on. Yeah, I think, look, who did they have in Australia? I'm very bad at my memory, so bad. So I'm sure somebody will correct me. I think Virat Kohli was in the slips during that Adelaide test, if I'm not mistaken. Surely he would have dropped a catch then. Rahane is in there at third slip, and I think Rohit is right up there with the likes of. They've had. Hopefully they get that right, but yeah, it does look a little more settled now with Rohit in there, and I think Shubman Gill's got a go as well in the slips.
May I add something here, Bharat?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, they are now looking at. Of course, it is a specialist position, close in catching, but they are being very flexible. They are going to try out different people because they want to have all-round fielders. Like you said, Gill, Rohit will be there, Pujara will be there, and Virat is there. So they are trying to develop all-round fielders. So you could see, we might see different fielders and in the closing position.
Peter, your question, please, and to whom on the panel would you like to address it?
Don't really have a question. I just wanted to say, really enjoying the chat. Just looking at the weather, I think we might be on and off through the whole weekend, Friday as well. So it's looking like it's going to be one of those, test matches where you're on and off all the time. And the seam and swing conditions might just be in New Zealand's favour. What do you think?
Nishad, do you want to come in on this one?
Yes, of course. New Zealand have got a bit of an advantage with the time that they've spent in England, but I'll also say that India too have spent like 2 weeks in Southampton, so that also should count for something. But yes, New Zealand have a slight edge with the conditions, I think. Hope the rain stays away, but I think New Zealand have the slight edge. But I wouldn't put anything past the Indian team. If the Australian tour has shown us anything, It is that. And also, one more interesting thing is that New Zealand have always been a banana skin for India in ICC tournaments. So let's see how it goes this time.
Ouch. Thanks for that reminder, Nishad. We've got probably questions from Uday, Shrikar and Kaushik before we have to wrap. We'll go to predictions just before we wrap. But Uday, maybe you come first, then Shrikar and Kaushik. And then we'll go to predictions and wrap because I think we're now pressed for time a little bit.
Yep. Hey, everyone, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, Uday here. Just a fun hypothetical. I guess I'll direct this to Mr. Dutta, but if anyone else wants to chime in, feel free. Day 5, 20 odd overs left in the last session, and India get put into bat, chasing 150. What's our top 4 for you? Batting order.
Rohit Sharma, Rishabh Pant, Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli.
Ooh, king of the chase at 4.
Well, not necessarily. You asked me for top 4. I'm not necessarily giving them in order, but those would be the top 4.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably Rohit, Gill, Kohli and Pant, right? I mean, it looks like an ODI chase almost, that one. So thanks for that question, Uday. Shrikar, do you want to come in with your question now, please?
Yes, thank you. This is Shrikar. My question is for the entire panel. So my question is, how does the team decide on the lineup for such an important game like a WTC Final? It's happening for the first time. Do they go with players who've done well recently or with more experience in general? How much does recency bias count over experience when they're playing such an important game? Thank you.
Bharat, do you want to maybe enlighten us on how they pick their 11 for a final like this?
Sure. Good question, Shrikar. No, I think it really will come down to the balance, as cliched as it sounds. And also, it's all about matchups these days, all formats. I mean, we hear that term being used a lot in the shorter formats, in T20 cricket in particular, but it again comes back to, that leaked audio. I love leaked audios. Not always, but generally in this cricketing sense. About, two guys who the management seems to think can go strong against the left-handers in the New Zealand lineup from around the wicket. So it'll come down to that more than, recency bias or form, especially considering it's one game. And you have to realize it's a unique circumstance for both teams. How often have they been in a position where you had to pick 11 for one big game? That's it. You're playing the decider. And that too, it's a neutral venue. The two teams, New Zealand kind of have the edge of having beaten India, when India were playing away from home last year. So when it comes to the playing 11s, I think it'll come down to that.
Great. Thank you, Bharat. And thanks, Shrikar, for that great question. Kaushik, I think that's all we're going to have time for today. So, but thank you so much, all of you, for sending in your requests. I'm really sorry we can't take all of them. Maybe we can do another day where we can take more questions. But Kaushik, do you want to just ask your question and then we'll go to predictions and wrap the space as well?
Yes, thank you. I'm Kaushik from India. My question is to Bharat sir. We have seen, considering the recent New Zealand-England series as well, the left-handers are doing so well. Conway, Roddy Burns, or even Henry Nicholls got some good runs. And we have seen Rishabh Pant coming at 5, also getting some youthful runs. Is it any possibility that we can see a left-hander in the middle order? Because the right-hander might be proven a bit one variety and all. Can we see any left-hander in this game, in the final?
Do you mean a left-hander in the Indian team?
No, in the middle order. In the middle order at 5.
Right. Yeah. Firstly, left-handers. I'm a left-hander myself, but I'm not good as any of them. So I'm glad you like left-handers scoring runs. But I don't think there is any other option. And with India, it's that middle order is fixed with Pujara, Rahane, and Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane. I covered the last 3 Test matches where there was no Kohli. Got a little used to it in Australia, but there is nobody else. But you'll have Rishabh Pant batting at 6 and Jadeja batting at 7. So that kind of makes up the middle order. So maybe they can. They can put a smile on your face and score runs like those other left-handers you mentioned have been doing in the last few months.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, I think we've kept you guys for way longer than we expected to. It's gone for more than an hour and 15 minutes, and we can sit here and talk to you all day, really. I mean, it's been such a fantastic panel. Listener questions have been absolutely brilliant. Vijay sir, Anindo, Bharat, I'm going to ask you for your predictions now. Assuming that we have a full day, full 5 days, a full test match without time being lost to rain. Hopefully, we're not going to lose any time to the English weather. Who do you think is going to win this test match, or is it going to be a draw? Vijay sir, you first, please.
India, because they have the right temperament to play test cricket and they're really charged up to win this game.
Brilliant. And also being a longer game, hopefully we're not going to have 30 minutes or 45 minutes of bad cricket, which cost us in the World Cup. Anindo, your thoughts on the winner of this World Test Championship final?
I agree with Vijay. It's my heart says, my head says, both say India. I think regardless of the bowling attack that New Zealand has, I firmly think India has the better outfit and the better mindset going in here to win the championship.
Absolutely brilliant. Bharat, it's already 2 in favor of India. Are you going to be different? Are you going to go with a clean sweep here?
It's going to be a sexy draw. I think it's going to be one of those classic draws where one team's down and out and they just bat out of their skins and draw. Because look, what does cricket need right now? Well, cricket needs Virat Kohli and Kane Williamson posing together with that trophy with their wonderful smiles, and we'll all be happy at the end of the day. So yeah,
but Kane Williamson will smile in either case, right?
I mean, he will say it is what it is. So, I really think nobody deserves to. And come on, I said it earlier as well. The draw is the charm of Test cricket. So let there be a draw. And I'll be there on day 6. Wow, what a great feeling that'll be. My prediction, not just my prediction, my heart, my mind, every part of my body says it's going to be a beautiful draw.
Fantastic. Let there be a draw and let there be no rain. That's what we're praying for. I'll be there for days 1 and 2 watching the boys in white, right? Playing the World Test Championship final. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Everyone in the listeners, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us such great questions and such an interactive audience. It's been our first ever Twitter space. So thank you so much for joining us here. And it's been a great experience for us. Sorry about the tech issues that we couldn't get Bharat Ramraj on, but we'll definitely be speaking to him in the near future. And a big thank you to all of our panelists. Guys, you can check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. We're on all major platforms, so go and subscribe to us over there. Vijay, Anindo and Bharat have all been on the show. We are also on YouTube, so you can check out the videos there. We come out every Monday. We'll be covering the World Test Championship, and we're on One Tip, One Hand on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So please do follow us, and we look forward to doing this again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bharat. Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you very much. Please have a room with Bharat for a room to discuss all the draws.
Absolutely. Thank you and take care. May the best team win.